Testing, testing, 1, 2, check, 1, 2. Can you hear me? FM radio. You're listening to Bare Your Soul. I'm your host, Julien Collet. This is a show about just that, bearing your soul, but that's B-E-A-R, bare your soul. I'd love to lie to you and tell you that that wasn't just the product of a typo while filling out a form. But I'll tell you the truth. I like it this way. B-E-A-R, bear. The typical expression is B-A-R-E, bare your soul. That's to show it to the world. And that's what we'll be doing on this show. But I'm also going to be asking our guests, and we will be having guests, except for this first episode, it'll just be me. I'll be asking them to bear it, to come to terms with who they are, at least in that moment, and to see if they can handle that. So to start us off, I will be doing just that. I'm sitting here in my closet on the floor, in my room, in my grandma's house on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, New York, and I'm quite nervous. I might even go so far as to say I'm afraid. And that's because while I'm sitting here in the closet, I know that in just a matter of hours, I will be speaking across the radio to New Yorkers listening. And that's a powerful thing. This is what I hope to do, radio, podcasting, something in that world. And this is my debut on the stage. Now, my voice has been out in public before. I have a website, YouTube, etc. But the radio has some power to it, at least in my eyes. This is a very public space, and it's been fought after. There's huge corporations who have vied to have control over this domain, this public domain. And the government has said who can take what, and NYU has taken this little sliver. We have this one channel that has now been dedicated to students here and has given me the opportunity to speak here. It's given me a platform. It's a very powerful thing. So I don't want to squander it. I won't waste too much of your time. I hope that you enjoy what I have to show you today. For my first episode of this show, I'll do something a little unconventional, a little different from the rest. I have a project of mine that I'd like to share with you. It's a form of bearing my soul, but it won't be the same as the rest. It won't be live and in person. It's something that I've prepared beforehand. It's about my grandfather, a man I never met, a man who died a year before I was born, and who ever since I felt this deep connection to. My grandma has even pointed it out to me, and that's the purpose of this project. It's a little investigation on exactly how connected we are, and how much does it take for that connection to break through to someone like me, who happens to be quite a skeptical person. I hope you enjoy. Here it is, Papa's reincarnation.
Right now, we are in exactly the kind of setting and situation that is a parallel between you and Papa. And that is because he had patients that he would bring into his office, and he would be on one side of his desk with their chart and his pen, and they would be on the other side of his desk talking to him and telling him their story. And I hadn't thought about that before. That bond between patient and physician, interviewer and interviewee, was really important to him.
I'm a skeptic. a true believer in coincidences. I was born on December 6th. My grandfather Mel Gluck, or Papa as we often call him, was born 68 years earlier on December 4th. We never met. Papa died a year before I was born on December 9th.
And I always thought, wow, that is really, really strange that between his birth and his death was your birthday.
That's my grandmother, Kayla Gluck, or Grammy as we often call her. Papa and Grammy. She used to believe in coincidences too.
And then it started occurring to me, I couldn't just say, what a coincidence, because there were so many of them that it really felt like the wrong word to describe that occurrence of things that look parallel or connected in some unknown way. They might be connected in some way. And so your being born then seemed like maybe that carried some sort of message. So I don't believe it, but I don't just say, oh, that's impossible anymore. And I don't use the word coincidence anymore.
When I was a little bit older, another coincidence occurred. A seer came to my house for a session with my mom. The same seer who envisioned a French chapel and a tropical climate months before she moved to St. Martin and met my dad, a French man who was coincidentally working at just the right bar. The man, Nigel Crook, or Eagle Wolf as he is spiritually known, was having his third session with my mother when I stumbled by, only a few years old. He took one look at me and said, "This boy is the oldest soul here."
I kept thinking about that because you were a very immature little kid. And it always struck me that if you were a very old soul, how was it that you were acting so immature and clueless? And mostly there were times with your dad where your father was getting really annoyed with you. And it seemed like you had absolutely no level of awareness of the dangerous territory you were stepping into. So we'd be in the back of the car and your dad was up front and you were, I don't know what you were persisting about, but you kept persisting. And your dad would be giving you the warnings. But it was like you were deaf to those admonitions. And I was used to Juliet.
My sister.
At the first sign of an admonition, her antenna, they were up vibrating in the air intensely. And she knew, quiet down. Whereas you were still at full volume of whatever annoying thing you were doing. And I thought, how can this person be an old soul? And as I say, as a little kid, it was because you didn't recognize or didn't acknowledge the signs of anger. But now as an adult, you can tell when your father's getting really upset. But you don't, it's not like you're being raised each level higher and higher to engage in an angry way. You just keep normally talking.
This, to Grammy, is another example of a parallel between me and Papa. A coincidence. Or not.
He didn't like to argue, I didn't like to argue. But I tended, and this is another way he's like you, you can talk to your raging father and just maintain a calm. That's really hard to do. I don't know if you realize that. You know, his anger doesn't trip you. So I had an internal rule. When I'm in an argument with Mel, if he yells, something's wrong, and it's me. And I would know I'd crossed some magical line, and I would stop, say, I'm sorry, I know I've gone over the top. And that would be the end of the argument.
I like this one. It reminds me of my philosophy of radical candor. I don't say I like something or know something or that something matters to me unless it does. I want to be credible, compelling, so that when it counts, people listen. so that if I yell, the world stands in wait. So let's recap. The current list of parallels goes as follows. Our birth and death dates coincide. I'm an old soul. We share a patient nature.
A love for puzzles, riddles, magic. Papa just loved magic. I think it's very interesting that your dad is very into magic as well. And that was a big bond between your dad and Papa. The very first day we met your dad, he came to dinner here. Nancy says,
My mom.
You know, Christoph does magic. Oh, of course. Papa immediately fell in love with him. Whereas it turned out that your father was also into Jacques Brel. So I immediately fell in love with him. All right, so anyway, we're sitting at the table, and so Christoph says, so Mel, you like magic, I'll show you a trick. And I don't know how he did that. He just repeated it as many times as Papa asked him to. Oh. And he could not figure it out. And over the years, he continued to show Papa that trick, and Papa could not figure out how to do that trick, how your dad was doing it. On the day he died, your dad was in the hospital, family was there, and Papa said to him, Christoph, I'm about to die. Would you be willing to show me how to do that trick? So everybody had to leave the room, and he taught him that trick.
Do you want me to actually tell you the trick? Because I won't tell you the trick.
Good. That's my dad.
You remove the magic. Once you reveal how it's done, you kind of like, oh, it's simple. It's not so simple, but it's simple.
So, here's the trick. 4 small paper balls spread out in a line on the table, each one covered by a playing card that's been bent slightly down the middle to form a tent. My dad lifts up the first card, 1 ball underneath. He picks up the ball, brings it under the table, and gives it a knock from underneath. Then he lifts up the 4th card, and voila, 2 balls. Then again, the 2nd card goes up, ball under the table, knock, knock, and there are now 3 balls under the 4th card. And finally, 3rd ball goes under, knock, 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 4 balls, 4th card. He remembers performing this trick for Papa and Grammy at that first dinner. He remembers Papa's bewilderment and curiosity, a silent kind of curiosity that didn't beg to be noticed.
He would ask more questions than he would talk. That's what I remember of Mel. But he never tried actually to. I think he kept that part like, I don't need to know that. I'm enjoying the fact that I don't need to know. Oh, I don't know.
I do know. I'm curious too.
I often say you're the most curious person I know, but I don't know if that's true.
I want it to be. That curiosity manifests itself in me as skepticism. I've practiced magic, seen the magician's secret, the sleight of hand, the trick. I looked up how to do my dad's. He was right. It is simple. Nothing I hadn't seen before. I'm disappointed. I want the magic back. That's a big part of what we see. What we wanted to see.
We attach what we want to attach by selecting what, You remember the time you play at the casino and won, not so much the time you lost?
He says this because 2 days before, he won twice at roulette. Once on 9, once on 6. His lucky numbers.
Do you have a lucky number?
3.
I don't believe that. That's his lucky number.
Add it to the list. Same lucky number. How many coincidences before a skeptic begins to doubt himself? Papa was a doctor at the NYU hospital. I'm the only one in my family who went to NYU.
Not one other kid applied, expressed any interest in ever going.
Add it to the list. What are we at now? 7? Not bad. At 7 coincidences, a skeptic begins to wonder what it would mean if this were true. If I were a reincarnation. So I turned to an expert, tracked him down. Eagle Wolf, my mom's seer from 20 years ago.
once you die, the soul goes into, it's in the Bible, it's called the well of souls. And then when time pertains to that soul, like paying off another part of its karma, the soul will be told what it has to pay off. And then to accommodate that as fast as possible, the soul then sees several thousand women's lives, and then they pick the mother or the way in, so they can achieve their karma faster. So it's a constant process. And this level is pain and suffering.
I gave him my list. What would an expert make of this magic? Would I see through his sleight of hand? So does this mean that my grandfather's soul picked my mother?
No. It's unlikely.
Why is that? Because it's never such a close link in family?
It's unusual for an ancestor to come back as you, put it that way. I've never heard of it. So you've got generational memories attached to your mum and your dad's energy, if you like. But you're not your grandfather.
Interesting. Can you hear the disappointment in my tone? I mean, he's a fortune teller. Come on. No fortune? Actually, Nigel was very adamant about this point.
I don't do fortune telling. So the easiest way of explaining it is I see spirit in full form. They talk to me and I talk back.
Isn't he convincing? I expected him to affirm whatever spiritual claim that I made. But no, this is a magician at work. No magic here. No reincarnation. It was Dad's magic trick all over again. I'm disappointed. I want the magic back. I thought I wanted to disprove a ridiculous spiritualistic theory, to uncover the sham. I'm a true believer in coincidences, remember? But what a letdown. I never met my grandfather, neither of them, in fact. Give me this. It would have been nice. If magic is real, fine. If magic is real, give me some. Thank you. You're listening to Bare Your Soul. I'm your host, Julien Collet. I love saying that. So what do we think? Am I bare enough yet? Did I get vulnerable enough on the microphone? You know, I don't think so. I think there's still some room, and with my last 1 minute 40 seconds, I'll share some more. There's been an update since the creation of that project. A new member has been added to the family. My cousin, Tal Leifer, and his wife, Anna Leifer, have the next generation. The first baby has been born. And his name? Mel. Now, if you don't remember from the episode, that was the name of my grandfather. They took it. And I'm ashamed to admit this, but there's an ugly feeling that I had when I learned about this. A feeling of jealousy. Now, Tal has a tattoo on his back. It's this little cartoon figure of my grandma and my grandpa. It's quite cute. It's the signature that they would put on the bottom of their cards, and my grandma still puts her little face on the bottom of all of her cards. And to me, it's representative of a connection that he shared with Mel that I never could. Tal is also the puzzle type, except he got to have that connection to Mel with it. And now he's named his child Mel. And I can't help but feel left out. There it is. It's not much, but it's a little nugget to share. I'll see you next time.